way back, I'm going to do a little house cleaning. Texas Carry is a grassroots organization. Almost all of the work that we did in the 84 session was going out of my back pocket. I put over 60,000 miles on my new car in 5 months. But I mean, I'm a servant. I mean, that's what I do. I serve. And so Texas Carry is a grassroots organization. We're a membership-based organization. So if you'd like to become a member of Texas Carry, that would be super awesome. You can go to texascarry.org and sign up to be a member. We're also taking donations tonight. So if you'd like to donate for us coming out here, it's about a 3.5-hour drive, something like that, to get out here today. We also take donations. We also, for the sheriff's for our 2 sheriffs that are in here, I'll also train law enforcement all over the state. I always know my audience, right? So I'll probably crack some funnies in here that I probably wouldn't crack if I was training law enforcement. Y'all just gonna have to take credit for me to take it, all right? So if y'all like me to come and work with y'all's law enforcement, just let me know. Local government commissioner, you're here. I also go and I sit down with local governments and we go over all this stuff and I try and work with everybody. So if anybody's interested in that, we don't charge law enforcement. Texas Carry does law enforcement for free, no charge. Okay? And I have references. Montgomery County Sheriff's Department is very, very well trained. We've trained Cleveland TV. We've trained Liberty County Sheriff's Department. We are really good at what we do when we believe this is the best way to have a community. All right?
And it's free continuing education classes for your officers.
Yes, it is.
Christopher.
And trust me when I tell you, they need it. Seriously. You know, law enforcement is so stretched as it is. Y'all would be shocked at just how stretched law enforcement really is. And, you know, they're busy getting shot at. All right? You know, a lot of times they'll go take online computer classes, you know, to try and get updates on all the laws. Let me just tell you this, there were 6,900, 6,800 bills filed last session. That's how many bills were filed. So much for smaller government, I know, right? 1,400 bills passed. Now, I don't know how anybody, I do good enough just to keep up with what I keep up with. How does law enforcement keep up with a stack of laws that are just thousands and thousands and thousands of pages? So, this is an area that I hope law enforcement will allow us to help them with. All right, so understanding Texas open carry laws seems like mission impossible. I'll tell you that a lot of people are afraid to get a CHL, or in the past were afraid to get a CHL. And the reason for that is because there was a lot of tripwires out there. Okay? There were a lot of tripwires out there. Everybody was afraid that they were going to accidentally break the law. I mean, that's what they were truly afraid of. Before, if you reached up to the top shelf in the grocery store and your shirt raised up and your handgun accidentally exposed, that was a Class A misdemeanor. I mean, that was serious business. And so people were just really afraid. The process for getting a CHL, it's not exactly user-friendly. I help people all the time. People will call me and say, I want to get my CHL. It's just all confusing to me. And I'll walk them right through it on my telephone. So if you haven't got your CHL yet, you want to get it, don't let it intimidate you. I will take my personal time out of my day, get on the phone with you. I've even gotten on the computer for people and done it for them. With them on the phone, they'll give me the credit card, the whole 9 yards, right? They're like, I'm not touching the computer. I'm like, all right. And so a lot of people were afraid to get a CHL. There were tripwires everywhere. The education that's available out there is not the best in the world. And so this is one of the reasons why we do this. And so Texas Carry believes through education and relationship building, we can work together to unlock the knowledge so that we're all secure. Law enforcement, citizens, local government. If we all hear the same thing, we all understand the same thing, then we're a secure community at that point. And When we understand things differently, it's when the community starts to get fractured. Okay? So Texas Carry, without a doubt, is leading in a gun rights restoration period here in Texas. You are literally experiencing history in the making. I'm going to shock some of you tonight. How many of you have always believed that Texas is this great Second Amendment state? And please be honest. A lot of hands go up. We are celebrating the lifting of a 144-year ban. Open carry of a handgun has been banned since the carpetbaggers came in 1871. The reason that people were disallowed from carrying a gun is because they didn't want the freed slaves to have guns at that point, or the lost side of government, they didn't want them to have guns. So how does Texas stack up against the nation? Texas is this great red state. It's supposed to be this great gun state. Let's talk about that just a minute. There we go. How does Texas stack up? I want us to take a good long look at this map. So there's California, Illinois, New York. I want you to take a look at that. There were only 6 states that did not allow open carry of a handgun. Just 6. So Texas is in bed with California, New York, and Illinois.
Take that back. You can word it a different way.
Now, I will make y'all a little bit happier. Now we just got one bed in the sheets. All right? Texas, as of January 1, if you take a look at the next color, orange, Texas as of January the 1st turned orange. There are 14 states that have what we call licensed open carry. Take a look at the yellow. 31 states that has unlicensed open carry. 31. Now y'all remember the news story, right? Things are going to be horrible on law enforcement. Oh, they're going to get all the 911 calls. Things are going to be bad. Shootouts in the street. Blood on every corner. I was talking to the reporter a little bit earlier. Nobody's talked about it since January 1. You want to know why? It's been a non-event. They're not going to talk about that it's gone off without a hitch. They're not going to talk about the fact that Houston hasn't received one 911 call. That Dallas hasn't received one 911 call for open carriers. I open carry 100% of the time everywhere I go, and I have not had a single solitary issue. I can't even get an interaction with law enforcement. I think I got the plague or something, right? No, seriously, because I like good interactions. I look for opportunities to intermingle with the communities, to educate folks, and I can't buy one. Everybody hear about Walmart? So Walmart came out with some weird policy that if you're carrying in their stores, that whoever the senior manager is on shift is going to come and ask you to see your CHL or your LTC. Right? And of course, everybody's like, what? What are you talking about? So I was trying to calm everybody down. They believed they had to because of the TABC laws. So we've been working on educating Walmart. We've been working with TABC, saying we need to make sure everybody understands this. People aren't real pleased about getting asked for their ID to go shopping in Walmart. But we've had members that have gone to Walmart and been asked for their ID. I can't get that to happen to me. I go to every Walmart, everywhere I go.
It's the hat.
It's the hat, right? Well, honestly, the way I dress, honestly, many people think I'm law enforcement. I like that, actually. Nobody attacks with me, right? So Texas is not as great of a Second Amendment state as it appears to be on the surface. A little history lesson here, because Texas Carry is bringing it with truth. We knock out the myths. I deal with emotional fiction. I can't tell you, every debate that I have on this issue is all based in emotional fiction. 44 states had open carry before Texas. The world didn't need it. 31 of those states, of course, were unlicensed. So, contrary to popular belief, And the talking points that were out there, especially by our city PDs, right, our city chiefs of police. The world is not ended in the 44 states that have open carry, and more importantly, the fact the sky is not falling in the 31 states that have unlicensed open carry makes the opposition's head explode. Did any of y'all get to watch the session and the debates on this issue by any chance? Anybody? Oh, see, y'all need to follow Texas Carry because that's one of the things we're really good at. We're really good at putting that in front of you so that you can watch it. We link it, we tell you when it's going to be, all the committee hearings and the debates. You would change the way you vote after you watch that. I guarantee you. They talk a real good game on the campaign trail. You want to see what they're really about, you get into the committee hearings and we post the links to the video and you can watch them. You get into the committee hearings and you get to the floor debates, then you really find out what they're about. Right? So Texas Carry historical impact in the 84 session, just a little history lesson. In 1995, the world was supposed to end for the first time. How many people know who Jerry Patterson is? Jerry Patterson is what we call the godfather of the CHL. He was then a senator. He passed SB 60 in 1995, and that bill only had 2 signatures. The companion bill in the House, HB 72, only had 23 signatures. Notice I'm saying only, and I'm emphasizing that. Let's fast forward. I don't have 2011 in there, but I can tell you that in 2011, it had less than 20 signatures. George Lavender filed the open carry bill in 2011 for the first time. In 2013, HB 700 again, filed by George Lavender, only had 22 signatures in the House, and there was no Senate-sponsored bill. What did 2015 look like with Texas Carry at the helm? HB 910, which was signed into law, had a whopping 85 signatures. There's a huge amount of signatures for any bill. We're not talking about how they vote. They're all willing to vote if it gets that far. But if you actually get them to sign on to the bill, that is huge. We had over 200 meetings up there. I spent 16 hours a day up there trying to drive this. I just wouldn't go away. I'm like, look, I know how you're going to vote. If you don't sign onto the bill, I'm going to communicate that you're opposed. If you truly support this, put your name. So it was kind of interesting because when our team met in October, when I set the goal for Texas Carry, the Texas Carry board met, and I said, I'm setting the goal at 80. Was it 80 or 85? 80. And I was like, are you crazy? You're never going to get that. I'm like, we're going to get it. And we announced it. And everybody said, you are never going to get that. Have you seen what the last bill's got? Have you seen how hard it is to get anything done? I'm like, we're going to get it. Y'all should have seen me at 78. I was about to have a heart attack. And guess whose doors I was beating down? Right? I mean, I've got a Democrat to co-sponsor the bill. Representative Ken. Okay? I was beating down Republicans' door. There was like 7 or 8 Republicans that hadn't signed on yet. And finally, when we hit that 80, then the other 5 Republicans that knew they were about to get run over by the train decided to get on. I can't really take credit for those guys. All right, so covering the new open carry law. We're going to cover who can open carry. We're going to define open carry. We're going to talk about holster requirements. We're going to talk about retention just briefly. We're going to talk about prohibited places, open versus concealed. We're going to talk about the 30.07 sign addition. We're going to talk about a sign violation change. We're going to talk about open carry in a vehicle. We're going to talk about training changes. Then we're going to talk about interacting with law enforcement. I leave that last so I don't get shot before the end of it, right? How many CHL instructors do I have? Any in here? Okay, so we don't need to talk about the training changes because y'all already got them all. They waited till the very last second to get it to you, but you have it now. So there's not much you're going to learn from that. All right, so obviously open carry went into effect January the 1st of 2016. All right, so we're going to define open carry. And this is a very, very important definition. The definition of open carry: the handgun is partially or wholly visible, but is carried in a shoulder or belt holster by a license holder. So let me put this out there right now. To open carry, you have to have a license to carry. A concealed handgun license or a license to carry. We have to pay a tax to exercise our right in the state of Texas. Just saying. Matter of fact, it's the highest in the nation at $140. You can get a license to carry in Arizona for $60. Texas is $140. The Senate committee that is dealing with this, Senator Huffman is the committee chairman. The last interim hearing that they had, they went on record and said that it was revenue for the state going into the general fund. How about that?
Who set the rate?
The state.
Who in the state?
The legislature. Your House representatives, they all voted on it. So, let me back up a little bit. All right. So, unlawful carry warning, folks. A partially or wholly visible handgun that is carried on or about the license holder that is not in a shoulder or belt holster can result in unlawful carry by a license holder, which is a Class A misdemeanor. Bad things happen. Let me explain what this means. I can't come into your county and go to your county park in my skimpy jogging shorts and go running through your park with an ankle holster on. You're going to be arrested for two things: indecent exposure and unlawful carry. Okay? You do not want to see me in skimpy jogging shorts. Trust me. It must be in a shoulder or belt holster. Okay? We'll talk about holsters. If anybody has a question about holster, we'll get into that in a minute. So, this was an unintended consequence, an unintended natural consequence. Open carrying a vehicle. This was never talked about in a session by us, by the legislature, by the opposition, by law enforcement. Nobody talked about it. It just happened naturally through the progression of the bill. It wasn't until after it was passed that I even clicked into what had happened. This is in the Texas Penal Code 4602. This is the new law. A person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly, I want everybody to listen, carries on or about. This has always been the law. On or about his or her person a handgun in a motor vehicle or watercraft that is owned by the person or under the person's control at any time in which the handgun is in plain view, unless the person is licensed to carry the handgun under subchapter 8411 Government Code, and the handgun is carried in a shoulder or belt holster. Why am I telling you all of this? I can take this holster with my gun in it off my belt, and I can set it on my dash. I can set it in my seat. It can be visible. The requirement is, if it's on or about my person, it must be in this holster in my car, if it's in plain view. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? If it comes out of this holster, please do not put it in your cup holder. You jest. We had an arrest in Harris County because some guy took his gun out of his holster and put it in his cup holder, and he got pulled over. Now, he didn't know, because if he knew, he would have covered it up. But he went to jail for unlawful carry because it wasn't in a holster. So yes, you can lay your gun in your seat if you're a license holder and it's in a holster, a shoulder or belt holster. Okay? It has to be concealed at that point. So for those that don't have a CHL, you can carry in your car. You don't have to have a license to carry in your car. It just has to be out of plain view. Okay? All right. officially by now, open carry holster requirements. If the handgun is partially or wholly visible, it must be in a shoulder or belt holster. There are no retention requirements. Now, which one of our sheriffs is the most experienced? Who's got the most years?
We got about the same on that.
How many?
38.
38 years each. So we have a total of 76 years of experience. Let's give those guys a hand. In your 38 years, how many bad guys have you arrested with a gun that were wearing a holster? Zero! That's all the answer I get. I had a 56 veteran tell me zero. So let's talk about holsters a minute. And I hope the sheriffs will take this to their deputies. There's a reason why we put holsters in the law. Because the very first thing it does is differentiate you from a turd. They want to be all gangster and carrying their waistband. You know, they do not carry in a holster, and there's a reason they don't carry in a holster. They want to be able to separate themselves from the gun very quickly if they need to. They can't do that if they're wearing a holster. I don't have a gun, what's the holster? Right? So there's a reason we put holsters. So please don't get hung up on what is a shoulder or belt holster. Please don't do that. Shoulder holsters are pretty easy, but people are getting hung up on belt holsters. Right? Don't get hung up. If it's designed to go on your waist, it's a belt holster. Okay? Not a big deal. I've had some issues with that across the state. We shouldn't. There's no retention requirements. Now I'm going to say this. In the Senate committee hearing, I debated the Assistant Chief of Police of the Houston PD on this issue. And he went first. He said, well, we need them to be wearing level 3 retention holsters. And I'm like, are you trying to get our CHL holders killed? You have to know what level 3 is. I mean, you're talking a couple of moves to have to get your weapon out. That's a no bueno. I get why law enforcement does it. Law enforcement is chasing bad guys and tackling them to the ground. CHL holders are running from bad guys and shooting to get away. Huge difference. Right? Law enforcement is going out there and they're putting their hands on bad guys and they're wrestling them to the ground. I absolutely agree that if their department wants them to have a retention holster, great. The sheriffs don't usually carry one. They're usually carrying their 1911 in a nice leather holster.
Oh, that's gone.
So I was debating the assistant chief of police in Houston, and I won the debate. No way were we going to have any type of retention requirements in the law. Here's why. Number one, a level 3 holster could get a normal CHL killed. It takes a little bit to get it out. I'm wearing a level 3 right now, but it's only in level 2 retention. The only time I put it into level 3 is when I'm in an unknown place and it's crowded. And there's a lot of people around me, and I can't maintain my space, and I'll roll my hood up. This is pretty much the holster I carry most of the time, unless I have to dress nice or wear a jacket, and then I'll put this holster on right here. The other reason is, ladies, y'all are going to be seriously out of luck. Because most of y'all carry either compacts or subcompacts. Good luck trying to get a level 3 retention for one of those guns. Can't do it. Okay? They just don't make it. You would have really, and you would even some full-size guns. If you have an F&X, they're hard to get holsters for. Some of the CZs are hard to get holsters for. The Beretta is actually a little difficult to get a level 3 retention holster for. So it just was not good for us, and so we got it squashed and no retention requirements. But knock, knock. Everybody see the guy knocking here and pointing? While there are no retention requirements in the law, we should be aware of good retention practices regardless. And let me say this out loud. It doesn't matter whether you open carry or conceal carry. You should be aware of good retention practices. So now I'm going to pick on the ladies a little bit. Ladies, where do you carry? That is absolutely the worst possible place in the world to carry a gun.
A purse.
It is. Purse carry is the absolute worst possible place that you can carry. Why? Purse carry. I mean, first of all, your purse makes you a target anyway. The fact you're a lady makes you another reason you're a target, right? With that being said, ladies, this bill was also designed to help you. One of the bullet points that I had in my presentation to the legislature was, under current law, it was very, very difficult for ladies to conceal on their person. Why? Because your body shape and your clothes fit just did not allow for it. That's a fact. Now, with the new law, you have much more flexibility, and even if you want to conceal carry, you can do it on your body and not worry about if it slides up, or not worry about if somebody can maybe see your printing or whatever. You don't have to worry about that anymore. Now you have more options. Okay? But if you're insistent on carrying in a purse, and sometimes you have to, right? You wear a dress, you know, it gets a little tricky on where you can hide a gun when you're wearing a dress. All right? If you're going to carry in a purse, make sure you get an actual concealed carry purse, please. It's going to have its own pouch. Nothing else goes in there with the gun, just the gun. Okay? And it needs to be in a holster in the purse. Don't just stick it in the purse. Make sure
It has to be in a holster.
Doesn't have to be, it should be.
Oh, it needs to be.
it needs to be. The next thing you need is you need one that has the long straps. Not the short strap purse that you just carry on your shoulder. You need it to go over your neck and hang down this way. Why? Now they're not going to come up and snatch it from you. Second thing is, when you're in Walmart or you're grocery shopping or wherever, you can set it in the boat. You can take those long straps and tie it in a knot. Now nobody come and take your purse. Okay? That's free. I don't charge for it. Good retention practices, and again, it doesn't matter if you open or you can conceal carry, it applies. First and foremost, situational awareness. How many of you know the colors of awareness? You should learn them. Get out of white. White is oblivious to what is going on around you. So the opposition to open carry said, well, you're going to become a target, somebody's going to come up and take your gun. Trust me when I tell you, they're not taking my gun. Not out of my holster. Not going to happen. Why? Because I am extremely aware of what goes on around me. They're not going to get close enough to do it. Most people walking out of Walmart doing this. That's in white. You need to be in yellow all the time unless you're at home. And yellow means you're paying attention, looking for something out of place around you. You're looking to see if someone's looking at you so that you can make eye contact with them and they see that you see them. Right? You need to be aware of what's going on around you. Body position. So when I go stand in line, let's say Walmart, and this actually happened to me, it's pretty cool. I get to tell this story. I'm standing in line at Walmart. And I always turn my body away from the person that's behind me. So if somebody's behind me, I turn this way. That's just the way it goes. I like keeping a little space there. Whether I'm open or concealed carry, it doesn't matter. So we were standing in Walmart one time after open carry passed, and I had an air compressor on a cart, and this guy come up and he stood behind me. And of course, I saw him immediately, so I just kind of turned sideways, like I normally do. Well, the very next thing I noticed is he had nothing in his hands. I'm like, standing in line at a checkout, and you have nothing in your hands. I got her attention, and I said, something's wrong. Well, it ended up being a Walmart employee watching me, but that's neither here nor there. I thought that was kind of ironic. So, I was tense. I was like, this guy's standing in line, he ain't got nothing in his hands, this ain't right, you know. I moved my wife back behind me so she can be my backup, because she carrying it too. I'm like, so we ended up paying, and I went to go do something, and he went and started bagging somebody's stuff, and I'm like, first of all, foolish on his part, but it just goes to show you, you need to be aware. How many people would even have realized they had a guy come up and stand in line that didn't have it in his hands? And then you had to have a good holster. Very, very important. Whether you open or conceal carry, you need a good holster. You cannot get a good holster at Walmart, people. Negative. Can't do it. A good holster is going to cost you somewhere between $50 and $100. Academy, I think, now sells Galcos, I think. So I used to say the same thing about Academy, but they upped their game a little bit. You can get one there. How many of you carry 1911s besides our sheriffs in here? Okay? Admit it, you carry it because it's sexy. Right? Make sure you get you a good custom leather holster to fit that gun. Why? Why are we talking about holsters? Well, if you're ladies, if you're with your kids or your grandkids and you're in Walmart and somebody starts shooting, what are you going to do? You're going to run. You're going to get your kids and you're going to be bombing us in somewhere. What don't you want to happen? You want your gun to fall down, your last line of defense. Guys, if you're in academy and somebody starts shooting, what are you going to do? Admit it. Run. Okay? You're going to dive for cover. Maybe you engage. What don't you want to happen? You don't want to lose. Okay? Good holster. Good retention practice is very, very important. All right, so important definition that we're going to give you now because it's going to become relevant here shortly is premises. It means a building or a portion of a building. The term does not include any public or private driveway, street, sidewalk, or walkway, parking lot, parking garage, or other parking area. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm just going to tell you that the only place you can open carry everywhere that you can conceal carry today, except for one place. College campuses. The legislature specifically prohibited open carry on college campuses, and that's because UT has lost their minds. Okay? Everywhere you can conceal carry today, you can open carry except for there. Now, I always throw this out there. There is a place that you can conceal carry today that technically, lawfully, you can open carry, but I highly discourage against it. Where do you think that is? K through 12. You can absolutely, you can conceal carry. If you go drop your kids off in the parking lot, you can conceal carry. Absolutely. You can't carry into the building. You can't go to a football game, a high school football game, or a school function, but you can absolutely pull into that parking lot and conceal carry. What's going to happen if you do that open carry? Let me help you. Little third grade teacher over here sees your gun. And she's not going to say, oh, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. Come on, hang out with all the kids. That's not what's going to happen. She's going to pick up the phone. She's going to call 911. And she's going to say, man with a gun at the elementary school. And trust me, I know our sheriffs are good guys back here, but they're not going to come up and say, oh, hey, Mr. Holcomb, how you doing? It's good to see you, man. You know, I see you're open carrying. You might not see your CO2. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to post SWAT up 1,000 yards down the road with the crosshair right there on my head. They don't care about me. They care about them kids. And I'm collateral damage at that point. All right? Please don't do it. It's just a recipe for something bad. All right? All right. Yes, that was my personal opinion. Oh, so current prohibited places. Remember we talked about 4603 earlier. These are our current prohibited places on the physical premises of a school, and that's designed as the building or a portion of the building. All right? On the premises of a polling place on the day of election. I think I'm in a safe crowd. I never know if I can tell this joke or not, so I'm going to assume I'm in a safe crowd. On the premises of a polling place. So I know why they passed this law. Every mass mass shooting that has been committed in the last 20 years has been committed by a Democrat. Actually true story. So the Republicans said, we got to protect our voters. I'm kidding, of course, on that part, right? All right, on the premises of a government court or offices utilized by the court unless pursuant to written regulations or written authorization of the court. I'm going to tell you an interesting phenomenon on this one. I'm going to kind of back up a little bit. One of the things that I had to go tell Commissioner's Court real quick is you have zero say other than in your Commissioner's Court meeting where people can carry in the county. Zero. Nada. Zilch. I've had Commissioner Courts all over the state holding Commissioner's Court meeting and voting. I'm like, what are y'all doing? You're not authorized by law to take this vote at all. The judge is the only one that has authority. The judge and the state. That's it. Commissioners have zero say except for their commissioners meeting. That's it. And they say so right here in the law. All right.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Is it a good time?
Go ahead.
Okay, let's see if I get this right. It's my understanding that a lot of the confusion was suggested to me about this bill is not so much the judges or the sheriffs or the commissioners, but it's the district attorneys that they had someone tell me that they're all interpreting them 254 counties differently. Is that your experience?
I'll say yes to that. I don't think all of them are interpreting it with integrity, but I do think most of them are trying to. We have the Smith County is off its rocker. All right.
I'll tell you that we're Upshur County, his son, he was going to be here. Billy Bird was going to be here, but both of his boys, he's doing baseball for his little ones. And Carl was supposed to send someone. I'm not sure if he sent someone, but he was supposed to send someone from his office from Gray County.
Okay, so here's the deal. With your county and your county attorney and you know, there are rulings now out on this. Yes, nobody knew how this was going to go. There's a big learning curve here. Okay, so please, I don't know what's going on here, but please don't just think you have bad elected officials. This was very confusing when it came out, okay? It's better to start having conversations, all right? I do believe that most of these elected officials want to do the right thing. And they may be disagreeing on what that is. But now we're starting to see the pendulum move on that issue. And local governments are like, yeah, you know what? We're going to have to get in line. So, and if McLennan County will get in line,
Good luck.
okay. No, they are.
They're
moving their non-court offices out of the building.
Okay.
So, all right. On the premises of a racetrack, into a secured area of an airport, there's an important change here that I just want you to be aware of. And then within 1,000 feet of the premises of the location was designated by the Texas Department of Criminal Justice as a place of execution on the day of execution. So on the airport thing, I'm not going to read all this again. Y'all can read it if you want, but here's what I'm going to tell you. Before September the 1st, if you went to the airport and you got to the TSA Grovia pedophile people, okay? You really like that. And you were a license holder and you forgot you had your gun on. You were in big trouble. It was an automatic arrest and it didn't matter. You were going to jail. Bad things were going to happen. And you legitimately forgot. It was in your briefcase, it was in your carry-on, it was in your purse, right, ladies? I mean, certainly you didn't walk up to the TSA and hand them a purse with a gun in it knowing that they were going to find it, right? People were legitimately forgetting. Not a single case was ever prosecuted. Why? Because they could never prove they were doing it knowing. So they decided to change the law because people were having to spend tens of thousands of dollars dealing with this. And the legislature's heart was just broken for its citizens and didn't want you to have to suffer through this. The truth of the matter is, it happened to 2 state representatives.
There you go.
2. And so now the law's changed. And the law says if you get to the TSA pedophile people, and it comes to light that you have your gun and you have your license, they will give you the opportunity to turn around and leave. But the law is very specific. If they tell you that you're breaking the law and they ask you to leave and you argue with them in any way, they are going to hook you up and take you to jail. It's better that you check your gun and miss your plane than they check your gun and you miss your plane. Okay? All right, so 46035, we had talked about that. If a business derives 51% or more of its income from the sale or service of alcohol beverages for on-premises consumption. Liquor stores are not prohibited places, folks. Not prohibited places for license holders. A bar is. Okay? On the premises where a high school, collegiate, or professional sporting event or interscholastical event is taking place. So you still can't carry open or concealed to a high school football game or a high school baseball game, things of that nature. Okay? And on the premises of a correctional facility. What about these? This is kind of an educational piece. On the premises of a hospital. Now, these are straight from the law, folks. Okay? The law says on the premises of a hospital. The law says in an amusement park. How about this one? How many people think that you cannot carry in a church? Anybody? The law says that right there. Or at any meeting of a governmental entity. This is how they write Texas Penal Code, folks. 46035 I, so after you read D, you got to go all the way down to I, and I says that B4, B5, B6, and C do not apply if 30-6 or 30-7 is not posted. So if I go to a hospital and they do not have a 30.06 or a 30.07, guess what? I get to lawfully carry there. Absolutely. Y'all heard me say that you can carry at the Capitol, right? Governmental meetings there all day long. That's what they do. They don't post, so we can carry. Commissioner's court, commissioner, you can post. The law allows for you to choose to do that or not to do that. I'll leave that up to you and your citizens. All right, so now we're going to talk about 30.07. For the non-CHL holders here, I'm going to get a little bit more in detail. When we say 30.06 or 30.07 or 30.06, that's Texas Penal Code. 30.06 and 30.07. 30.06 has been in place for a long, long time, and it is a signed requirement that is in the Penal Code that says if a business, private property, does not want you concealed carrying on their property, they have to post this sign that says Texas Penal Code 30.06, criminal trespass by a license holder, and there's very specific language, there's very specific wording height, and it must be in contrasting colors and posted in a conspicuous manner. We've been operating under this law for 20 years and it's not been a problem. CHL holders want to obey the law. When license holders see the sign, they're like, okay, they don't want my money. That's what that sign means. It means do not want your money. It also means we're a victim rich zone. Only bad guys can come in here with guns. That's what that sign means. Right? I have very strong feelings about that because people that want to disarm you aren't willing to provide security to protect you and your family. Okay?
Right.
All right. So 30.07 is the same, but for open carry. If a business does not want you to open carry into their establishment, they need to post the 30.07 sign. That means no open carry on that private property. So here's what we saw. The world was going to end, right? That's what we know. And so you saw a bunch of these 30.0 signs go up in the 5 cities. They just started putting them up. Some people did it because they were given intentionally wrong information by the opposition. There were literally sign salesmen that walking out there that were telling people, you have to post these, it's the new law. And they were like, okay, I don't want to break the law, let me put the sign up. That was happening all over the state. We've got many of those signs down now. We've educated folks, let them know what the law is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in private property, I respect private property rights. Let me just say that. I will protect anybody's right to post one of these signs. It's their property. Texas believes in private property rights. I also have the right not to go spend my money there. Very simple. So, written notification, and just so you know, this is very similar to the 30.06. This is the exact language that must be pursuant to section 30.07 Penal Code, trespass by a licensed holder with an open air carried handgun. A person licensed under subchapter H411 Government Code may not enter this property with a handgun that is carried open. This is lawful, we call lawful notification. A little gun with a circle on it and a line through it means absolutely nothing to a CHL holder. Walk by them till the cows come home, and I do it all the time. A sign that says no open carry. It irritates me because it's not a lawful notification. There's a reason why these signs were created the way they are created. It's so that if I drive up to a place of business, I can see it before I get out of my car. Why does that matter? Because I don't want to walk up to the door and everybody in the world watch me and me see the sign and then me have to turn around and go back to my car and take my gun off and leave it in my car. Now it can get stolen. All right? A sign posted on the property that includes the language described in paragraph A in both English and Spanish. It appears in contrasting colors with block letters at least 1 inch in height and is displayed in a conspicuous manner clearly visible to the public. Now 30.06 stops right there. The last however many words, 5 or 6 words there, were added to 30.07 at each entrance to the property. Sheriffs, make sure your deputies know. I just had this happen in Anna, Texas. I just got the phone call just a couple days ago. I was on the phone. One of our members was about to get arrested. He had me on speakerphone with law enforcement there. He went into a pilot, and the door that he went into open carrying was not posted. The other entrance was. The store owner let him know that, hey, you can't open carry here. He was like, okay, you didn't have a sign posted. He said, well, it's posted over here. He said, well, you're supposed to post it at both signs so that I know. Walked out, put his gun in his car, came back in. Law enforcement happened to be there. They didn't get called. He just happened to be there. And this guy says, you know what? I can arrest you for criminal trespass. No, you can't. The law is very specific. It says the sign, in order for it to be legal notification, the sign must be posted at every entrance. And he just happened to walk in the one that didn't have a sign. This is also the next thing. Law enforcement, very important. Now, this is actually more important to me than open carry being passed. Before, if you walked past the sign because you were looking down at your phone or doing whatever and you missed the sign, it was a Class A misdemeanor. We were sitting in session. How am I doing? All right. We were sitting in session in the, how many people know who MDA is? All right. I'm not going to say their name. I'm not allowed to do that. My wife washes my mouth up myself every time I do that. It's an anti-gun group. Call them mad mommies, if you will. All right. They showed up and they decided that they were going to come in and try and eliminate the 30-06 and the 30-07 and go to a sign that was maximum size 8x11. Maximum. No minimum requirement. Circle with a gun and the line to it. That's what they tried. And I said, okay, that's how you want to play, that's fine. So I'll open up my computer, sitting right there in that committee hearing, type. Went to Representative James White's office. I said, I need to borrow your printer. He said, go ahead. I printed off the bill, walked down to Representative Matt Schaefer's office, and I said, Representative Matt Schaefer, I said, why in the world, if I miss a sign, is it a Class A misdemeanor? That is a $4,000 fine, 2 years in jail, you're losing your license. That's a bad thing. I mean, you just treated me like a common criminal. He said, that's really in there? You'd be surprised. No, you'd be surprised. They don't know half of what's in the penal code. He said, I said, will you carry it for us? He said, I'll carry it for you. And so now if you accidentally miss a 30.06, 30.07, it is a Class C misdemeanor with a max fine of $200. It's a ticketable offense. Okay? Now, if you happen to not see the sign and you walk past the sign and the business says, hey, no open carrying here, you must immediately turn and leave. If you do not, at that point it becomes a Class A criminal trespass. Okay? So this is huge right here. Huge. Alright? Alright, training changes just real quick. I'm going to skip over that because everybody's got that. Don't worry about it. Alright, so last thing, interacting with law enforcement. Law enforcement has been tasked with a very, very difficult job by our legislature. Our legislature actually did not do them no favors with the problem they have created, not with open carry, but with our required ID laws. They're kind of a mess when it comes to concealed carriers and open carriers. So law enforcement is now having to balance licensed open carry with unlawful carry. Okay? Y'all can get education you never imagined you could get. This is the penal code today. Section 4602. A person commits an offense if the person intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly carries on or about his or her person a handgun. If the person is not on the person's own premises or premises under their control or inside or directly en route to a motor vehicle or a watercraft that is owned by the person or under the person's control. Listen to me very carefully. It is against the law in Texas today by default to carry a handgun unless you're on your own property or in your vehicle or a vehicle under your control. That's the default law. It's against the law in Texas. It's just that simple. That is the default law in Texas. So here's what we end up with. You hear people cite, I guess it's the Fifth Circuit. Well, the Fifth Circuit said this, or the Fourth Circuit said this. Well, a couple of things. One, that's not our jurisdiction. That's number one. Number two, in those places where you're citing the court wins, carrying a gun is legal by default. Here, carrying a handgun is illegal by default. That's a fact. And there may be some folks in here that aren't going to like what I'm going to say, but I just give you the facts, and I try and help the community understand the law, and I try and help law enforcement understand the law, because I have people that get very upset with me about this. Okay? 4602, in 46.15, they created an exception. 46.15 says that section 4602 does not apply to a person who is carrying a license issued under 411, and they're carrying a handgun in a concealed manner or in a shoulder or belt holster. This is what is called an affirmative defense. It means that if law enforcement comes up to me, if I'm approached and I'm asked, because they see I'm carrying a handgun, and they ask to see my license, I am going to need to show them that 4602, the default law in Texas, does not apply to me. That's the end of it. Now, I actually haven't been ID'd yet. Maybe the sheriff will do it one time for me so I can finally say it happened, right? I'm kidding. The bottom line is, if we're standing at Walmart and we're open carrying and law enforcement sees your handgun, he sees your handgun, that is automatic reasonable suspicion. Because the default law under 4602 says it's against the law. So he can come up and say, "How you doing, ma'am? How you doing, sir? I see you're carrying a holster, by the way." What's the first thing law enforcement would think when he saw a citizen shopping in Walmart with a holster? License holder. Okay. When they ask for that, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, here you go. License. There you go. Now, once they verify that, and when I train law enforcement, I am extremely clear on this point. Once you validate my license is good, the encounter needs to end immediately. We don't need to have long conversations about where are you going, where are you coming from, why are you open carrying. Do not lecture me about open carrying. Just not now. I will take, we'll go buy coffee, I'll buy you breakfast, we can talk about fishing, hunting, whatever. But after they validate that your license is good, it's over. Okay? Last thing is obviously the CHL name changed. It was a CHL. Now they're changing it to, as of January 1, it's called the LTC, license to carry. Right? I used to say licensed Texas carry, but it's licensed to carry. If you have a CHL today, it's fine. When you renew, you'll get one of the new magic cards that say LTC on it. Right? That's what I always tell people, the cards are magic. They gotta be. Somehow they stop bad guys from carrying. All right, are you feeling overwhelmed? Kind of a lot to absorb. I hope I broke it down for you, and I'll take questions at this time on anything at this point.
Constitutional carry, will we get it passed next session?
No. And the reason is we watched the primaries to see what would happen, and we didn't get enough of the current leadership. I see no reason why it would. I'm not even sure we could get it out of the most conservative Senate that we've ever had in the history of Texas after what we saw last session. So, yes.
So am I right, that you just said, if I have a gun in my glove box, it's not visible, the policeman stops me and I say immediately, there is a gun in my glove box.
Are you a licensed holder? Or?
I'm not a licensed.
Okay, so now this is opinion. I'm going to tell you how I handle this. I'm going to tell you what I think professionally. Okay? For license holders, and I get asked this a lot, so I like answering. For license holders, if you get pulled over by law enforcement and you're a license holder, first thing you want to do is while you're going down, put your hands on your steering wheel. Do not start grabbing for wallets or getting your glove boxes, and don't do any of that. While you're going down, put your hands on the steering wheel. The officer can come up and say, I pulled you for this and this, do you have your license and your insurance? I got it. Officer so-and-so, my name is Terry Holcomb. I am a CHL holder, I'm a license holder. I'm currently carrying at 4 o'clock on my hip. How would you like me to proceed? By law, when they ask for our ID when we get pulled over, we're required to give them both already. So that's for license holders. If you do not tell them, they're going to go back and they're going to run your license. And I'm telling you right now, your license is tied to your driver's license. And it's going to come back CHL holder. Now what they've done is now they've walked away from your car. They don't know what you're doing. You didn't give them the license, and now they've got to walk back up to a situation that they're very uncomfortable in. Detention levels have just gone through the roof. It's better just to do it that way. They will appreciate it, trust me. If you're not a license holder, don't say a word. Unless they ask. There's no reason to interject it. There's absolutely no reason to interject the word gun when you're having a conversation with law enforcement. It's a bad word. If that gun is in, now, if your insurance is in there, and he asks you to get your insurance out, and you have to open that glove box, you had better tell him. Because if you open that glove box and he sees that gun and your hand goes in there, bad. But in general, if you're not a CHL holder and it's tucked up nice and safe, there's no reason to interject that conversation. Okay? That's my professional opinion. Yes, ma'am.
Does the officer, once you have handed him both of your licenses, does he have the authority to ask you where you are carrying concealed?
So that's going to bring up two questions. Does he have the authority to ask you where the gun is? Absolutely. He also has the authority to disarm you. The law 100% gives them the authority to disarm you if they feel it's necessary for their safety, public safety, or your safety. We all know what that means. Here's what I'm going to tell you, and I'm glad this came up because I say the same thing when I train law enforcement. If I'm at a scene and law enforcement is asking me to step out of the car, he wants to disarm me, and he says, Mr. Holcomb, I needed you to take your gun out of your holster and lay it on the hood for me. I'm going to say, you need to get your supervisor out here right now because we're going to have you drug tested. I'm not touching my gun. No way is that happening. By all means, reach around, take it out of my holster. That's great. Please don't shoot me while you're doing it. Okay? Absolutely. They have the right to ask you where it is, and they have the right to disarm you. We need to allow that for them. I'm not going to get into whether I agree, disagree, or anything like that. It's the law. We need to work with it. Next question. Yes, sir.
What constitutes an educational institution? Schools, is it only an establishment that accepts federal funding? And where I'm going with this is private schools. Whether they be a Christian school or a community school that accepts no federal funding.
You know, if it's a school, it's a school. Now, keep in mind, schools can allow carry. I'm sorry. Schools can actually allow carry. I don't know if you're aware of that. But a private school and a public school are under the same law. But the private school or the public school, either one, can actually allow people to carry under the law.
What has to happen before they can allow?
A piece of paper.
Let me rephrase that. Do they have to do anything?
Yes.
To
Allow.
make that possible?
Yes, they do. They're going to have it written. It's going to be something written. It's either going to be in your hand as an individual or it's going to be in their policy. But it will be written.
It has to be written by someone of very authority. A school teacher can't give you.
That's correct. That is correct.
School board or someone like that.
Next question? Yes, sir.
Is there a difference between if you use your gun to defend yourself and if you go to yourself?
So the question was, is there a difference if you use your gun to defend yourself, whether you have a CHL or not? The answer is no. It's the same.
One of the things that I'm going to do for you, and talk about the kids having a gun or that they don't have. Hey, I know that facility is the building,
Right.
and the kids say he's going hunting after school. And he brings his gun in the car.
Not protected. No. The kid is not protected. Nor am I protected by bringing along a gun. The only exemption is for license holders coming onto that parking lot. And that's actually a federal exemption. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I'm sorry?
Repeat that exemption.
Okay, so there's federal law and state law that prohibits firearms within 1,000 feet of a school. But there's an exemption for those that hold licenses issued by that state. So if you have a Texas CHL, you're exempt. You can carry into the parking lot. You can carry within 1,000 feet. Okay? If you have an Arizona license, you are not exempt. The exemption is very specific at the federal level. It says if you have a license issued by that state. Okay? Yes, sir.
If you were to get stopped and say you didn't have your driver's license, you give them permit information, they can run you, confirm you have a license. So I'm assuming they can do the same with your license to carry. Is the consequences for not having your license to carry probably worse than if you don't have your driver's license?
It depends. So if you're in your car, you're not required to have it anyway. Because you're not carrying, from a very technical sense, when you're in a car, you're carrying under the Motor Vehicle Protection Act. Giving them your CHL is a professional courtesy that the legislature has asked us to give them. I've got no problem with that. Okay? But let's say you leave your CHL at home. and you're in your car and you can carry what you can do legally in your car. You don't have to have your license to carry your car. And you get pulled over, you need to tell them that you're a license holder, because they're gonna go, when they run your driver's license, it is absolutely gonna happen. Now, we are aware of no cases to where a license holder forgot their license and got popped. There's no case law on that. What we believe is you will not be convicted of unlawful
Doesn't mean you
carry.
won't be charged, it means you won't be convicted.
Correct.
This might, you might think I'm crazy for thinking this way, but I don't want to shoot somebody just because they want to rob me, but I don't want to steal my wallet with my credit card, you know, and all that.
Yeah, well, everybody's got their moral decisions that they have to make around it. Any other questions on open carry or anything else we've covered tonight? Yes, sir.
On your 80 signatures, do you have a chronological order of who signed on? Like, who were the first guys?
I do believe so. James White was the first.
Really?
Yes. James White was absolutely numero uno.
Matt Schaefer was up there too?
Matt
Matt
Schaefer?
Schaefer.
Oh, yeah. Matt Schaefer's a great guy. He's one of the best.
James White, who these next
Yes, he is. Very good friend of mine. Any other questions on anything we covered tonight, guys? All right, God bless y'all. Thank you for coming. God bless you.